Good day and welcome to another great episode on the Super Data Science YouTube channel. Today we are looking at dashboards within Tableau. As it is quite an art to design the perfect dashboard, we will walk through a step-by-step tutorial today to show you how to design the ultimate dashboard, as well as some top tips for creating a dashboard. You'll find that during the tutorial. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. So today we are using the Superstore Safe Data Source from Tableau. You will find it on the left-hand side of your data source within Tableau. It is as straightforward as just clicking on the sample. Tableau will make the connection itself. But let's just take a step back and have a quick look what the data is that we are working with. So you'll see specifically this is around order information, and we are looking at the order ID, or rather what's contained within this file is the order ID, the date of the order, the actual shipping date, the method of shipping, the customer name, the segment, the country, city and state, as well as the postal code. We also have the region, the category, the subcategory of that product, the product name, as well as some measures over here. We've got the sales, the quantity, the discount, profit made, as well as a calculated field called profit ratio, which is obviously a ratio from the profit versus the sales figure, and also the manufacturer, and we have a bin over here. Now we will only be using a couple of these fields, but they are already all included from Tableau in their online data source. All right, the dashboard we are building has basically got three different visualizations, I should say, and this will all be centered around profit. So we are tasked to build a dashboard focusing on profit, some profit analyses. So let's jump into the first one. So we will firstly be looking at the profit by the product category, which is quite straightforward. And for that, we will literally just be using the product category into the rows, as well as the product subcategory. And we will then also be adding the profit into there. Obviously, we want to show this as a visualization, so we'll just use a straightforward horizontal bar graph. And we want to obviously add a color as well for the profit to make this a bit clearer. And apologies, hold down Control for Windows and Command for Mac when selecting this and drop it onto color. And you'll see the color obviously changing with all the positives to blue and then orange for the negatives. Although I think what works better in this case is a red-green rather than a blue-orange. Green being the color of money and red meaning problems or danger. We want to have the red as negative and the green positive. We also just need to make sure that we choose our center as 0, because all greens all values above 0 should be green and below 0 red. Let's click apply, and you can see that we obviously have made some nice profit in some of the categories, others not as much. And that's as straightforward as our first visualization was. We can then also just give this a name and call this profit by category. So these are fairly easy to create, and you'll see the second and third one are the same, and then we'll focus on putting them all together in one dashboard. Right, the next one is profit by state. So we're going to be using some geographical data in here. Now we've got, as you saw from the data source, we've got the state information, which we'll drag in there. Again, we are specifically looking at profit. So let's drag in profit onto our view, and immediately it already takes it as the size metric, but we want to move that to color. It looks better if it's color, and there we go. Again, we can see which are the states with the highest profit and one of the lower ones, but let's keep our color legend the same. So we can go to red, green as well, and do not forget to change this to 0 as we want to see it. All the positives green and all the negatives red. There we go. Again, a nice straightforward one, but easy to view and see what our biggest profitable states are. And our last one that we'll use is the profit by the manufacturer, because we want to see which manufacturer's products are giving us the highest profit margin, or at least the highest profit. And for that, we will just be using the manufacturer into the columns. as well as the profits and for our measures, and change this into a graph as well. Now we want to just swap it around. I would prefer to have the profit running on the left from high to low, and then have each of the manufacturers on the bottom. Now you'll see that some of them are cut off, so we're not properly able to see the whole picture. You can just change this view at the top here to say we want to fit it into the entire view. So it squashes it up a little bit, but for this purpose, just for us to see what it looks like before we even put it into the dashboard. Again, we'll be working with it differently in the dashboard, but for now, just to see what it looks like. Okay, so we mustn't forget to also add the color legend onto there. Just change the color legend as well. And we had red, green earlier. Let's just choose that as well. There we are. And don't forget the 0 center. And what could work well in this case as well is just to sort this information and show the manufacturers with the biggest profit loss, or in other words, the lowest overall profit, sum of profit, show that on the left hand side. And to do that, we can just click on our manufacturer and click sort and say we want to see it ascending, because obviously it's starting from the lowest value, but not based on the data source order, based on the profit or the sum of the profit field. And there we go. You see a nicely looking graph. Now again, this is a lot of information, and we also want to relate it back to something else as well. So what would be nice for us then perhaps is to filter this a little bit, or not to filter, but to limit what is being seen here. The analysis is around the loss of profit. So we will just be selecting we'll basically add a filter in there to look at all of our manufacturers, but limiting it only to the first 30. Now, normally it's the top 30, but this will be the bottom 30 because it is the ones with the lowest profit. So we can select the bottom 30, and that looks much better. So our focus is on the ones with the biggest loss. And what would work well in this instance as well is to just see the quantity sold as well. And you can just drag that onto the row shelf. Yeah. Let's swap them around. So let's have that one at the top. So you can see that for this, we have very low number of items sold, but also a very big profit loss. So in other cases, we've got a very high number of items sold, but a very low profit. So this might prove some insight into our executives when they look at this dashboard, and specifically look also at the other elements of it, the region and the category and so forth. But for now, we'll have it at this level. We'll just quickly fix the color, because we don't want to confuse our users by looking at thinking that this is money as well, or at least there's monetary values. So for quantity, we will just remove the color value, and I think gray looks good. It keeps it simple, and at least it gives a good picture as well. All right, so these are our 3 visualizations, which we can then now use to build our dashboard. Building the dashboard is very easy. We will just click on the Add Dashboard or New Dashboard button at the bottom over there, and immediately we start off with a blank screen. Now, the first thing to note, or to be very careful about when designing your dashboard, is to know what size to select. Now, you'll see the size on the left-hand side. This is very important because you would need to understand how this will be viewed. Would it be viewed by people using what specific size of screens they're using? Would it be more of your executives using it on their mobile phones or tablets or so forth, which you can also view by looking at the device preview over here and choosing what specific size you want. In our case, we will not be looking at the mobile ones at the moment, but we will just be I normally just select the generic desktop size, as it provides a decent space to put your visualizations in, and it normally fits on most of the screens. I think it's also very good that we pause here and just have a quick look at our top tips as promised earlier. Now, when we design our dashboards, there's a few things we need to be taking care of. All right. So firstly, as we've already alluded to, is to know your audience. Who are we presenting to? Is it our executives? Do they need a lot of granular information or not? How it will be viewed on which type of screens and so forth. So know who you are presenting this for. Next is to make sure that you do select the correct size and layout of your dashboard, as we've also already shown as well, which is very important. And choosing it at the start makes it much better rather than to do rework later. Also make sure that you limit the views and the colors, and when in doubt, simplify your dashboard. Now what we mean by that is use consistent coloring. Don't use a different color for each graph, for instance, except where it makes sense. Also, limit the number of views. A dashboard with 10 or 20 different visualizations not only has a space limitation, but also you lose your user and you lose their focus when you have too many of those on your dashboard. Fourth is to make it interactive. We all like to see a bit of animation or interactivity in our dashboards, and this also keeps the users engaged, but also keeps it very, very much intuitive, where they are able to come up with their own insights given the information that you're showing in your dashboard. And lastly, only use tooltips when necessary, and we'll get into that one a bit later when we build our dashboard. But in essence, it is just to have your dashboard nice and clear without a lot of unwanted information in there. Okay, back to our dashboard. So it's really straightforward to create your dashboard initially. What is important to notice firstly is at the bottom here you've got two options, tiled or floating. The difference being floating is if you move a visualization into your dashboard, it would be floating. So as you can see, you can just move it around, place it wherever you want, resize it and so forth. So it gives you much more freedom on how to use this. I will undo that and just change it to tiled. I prefer working with tiled. It keeps your dashboard much neater, and also for different sizes of screens, it also resizes it automatically. So as we said, using tiled, drag this in, you'll see it highlights the whole screen in gray, and this means that it would fill up the whole space. Yeah. As I drop it in there, there is the whole view. Now a couple of things. Firstly, we only see the legend over here, the profit. We know this is profit, so we can remove that. And we are seeing some wasted space at the bottom here. So what I always like to do for all of my visualizations, or sheets rather, is just to select the entire view so it fills up the whole space. All right, then we would also include our state view. Now moving this, now you'll see this, it comes up with a couple of options. I can either put it at the top, on the left hand side, on the right hand side. For this one, I'll put it on the right hand side, so you can see Tableau gives you a little preview of where it will place it. So it takes up all of the space on the right. Again, I'll remove the profit legend over there, and we will just be using the same for manufacturer and putting that at the bottom there. Again, it gives you a preview of what your dashboard will be looking like. And you can see now why I've also limited it earlier or why we've actually limited it to 30, the bottom 30 manufacturers, as we are going to be running into space issues very soon. I will just be removing that legend as well. It frees up a little bit of space, as well as each of these titles as well. As this is not really important for our analysis, our audience would be able to see that here we are looking at the category and subcategory and the profit of those, of each of these categories. This is obviously a geographical view, and our users already would know that we are looking at the specific states. And then at the bottom, obviously the quantity and the profit per manufacturer over there. All right, if we think of our tips as we had it earlier, we can go back into that and have a look. And we've already considered our audience. We've chosen the correct size and layout of our dashboards, our visualizations. We are limiting the views and the colors. They are quite consistent. Next, we need to make it interactive. So with that, we mean that if we click on a specific state or a specific category, that the other graphs also update. Now there's an easy and there's a difficult way. We'll just show you the easy way right now. Is on the side you'll see there's a use as filter, and once you click that, any selections within this sheet would filter the information in all the other sheets. So if I click on tables, for instance, you can see the other visualizations change based on the information that have been supplied over here. It doesn't go the other way, so still if I click there, nothing will happen. And we can just do the same for these two visualizations. Click use as filter, and if we now click on any of those, each of the others would update. And this makes it easier for our user then to find their own insights if they want to specifically look at tables and what are the manufacturers which are doing worse than the rest. as well as in which states are we making the biggest profit or loss, I should say. Okay. Next, we also need to just create some additional filtering for our users. A lot of people prefer to click on the graphs to filter, but it's also good practice to have filters on the right hand side where our users can also select the specifics that they want to see, especially on a year view. So the current data we're looking at is quite a long period of time, and we want to give them the flexibility to look at on a year-to-year basis. Now, these are normally available under your each specific sheet, for instance. So you would be going into filters and you would be able to get them from there. Let's maybe start off with category. We want to include the category as well as the subcategory. And we would then also like to see, for instance, the region. Now, neither the region nor the date is in any of these views at the moment. So we would need to go and add those to make sure we are able to access them. So we can just use the map, for instance. And if you go to filters, you'll see there is no specific year to select or the actual region. So for that, we will just go into our map view and just add the region. Let me just see where region is. Region into our filters, and we'll just select use all for now, as well as our date. Now for the order date, we will drag that in there, but it will ask us what do we want to filter on specifically. And in this case, I want to look at the number of years, or the years specifically, so 2014 to 17, and click OK once again. Now you'll see they've appeared under the filter shelf over here. They aren't as controls in your sheet, which is not necessary for this specific case. We will go back to our dashboard. Maybe let's just rename this to profit dashboard while we add it. And now we can go put our filter back in. If we go filter, you'll see there we've got our year of date, and there we go. Let's put the year in, and we will also put in our our actual region. All right, let's also make these look a bit better, because there's a lot of information for somebody to go in and view at the same time. And let's make it more intuitive. Let's start off. Let's start us off by moving this to the top, and let's put a slider in here, for instance. So a single value slider. So now a user can click between each of these and see the year change. Now, what you'll notice, it only updates the actual sheet that we got it from, where we actually went to select it from. And in that case, we can just say apply to all worksheets, all using this related data source. And now if I make a change, it would update each of the other sheets. Maybe next, let's put a region. So after our user has selected a year, for instance, let's see if we can get them to select a region. For region, I want to have them only select a region at either all regions or a region at a time. So we'll make it a single value list, and they can specifically look at a region as they want to. And by the way, at this point, I can also just mention, if we untick this little tick or tick thumb, or what do you call that? Let's click reset map, for instance. Every time I move to a different region, it would reposition the actual view, which is what we want. That is quite neat as well. All right, and then we want our users to be able to select a category, one or more categories, as well as one or more subcategory. But again, this is too much information for the subcategory. Let us rather use a multiple values drop down. As we had for the year, we selected where apply to all worksheets using this data source. Let's do it for the rest as well, to ensure that our users are able to apply whatever changes they have to all of the visualizations. All right, and similarly, what we want to do is just also select in here only relevant values. That means that it would show a full list as we have it there now, but if we start unticking some of the categories, our list here would shrink and it wouldn't have unnecessary information in there. Only the categories that are then applicable to the ones that have been selected at the top. And we'll just do that for all of them. This again is more intuitive when your user looks at the information to make sure that what they see is what they can actually click. So another nice tip over there. Alright, our dashboard is taking some excellent shape. Let's next give our dashboard a title, which is always important. So we'll put that at the top over there and call this our profit dashboard. Make it quite a nice big heading over there, and we can just easily resize it. I trust that you have enjoyed our tutorial today, and I'm hoping to see you next time. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and until we meet each other next time,